Hey guys, TheJordude's here, back again with another Shadowverse video. This video is sponsored by Cygames. If you guys are interested in picking up Shadowverse, you could play it on any of your mobile devices or on your PC. I'll have the link down below in the description so you could go check that out. If you guys are interested in the competitive side of Shadowverse, I'll also leave some links in the description so you could go check out some official tournaments held by NGE, as well as some community tournaments hosted by our community tournament organizers on Battlefy. So last week I talked about closed decklist tournaments, and I'll have a card up there so that you guys can go check that out if you guys are interested. And basically I talked about the different strategies, how you can prepare for closed decklist tournaments, and the pros and cons about that kind of format. But in this video I'm going to be talking about open decklist tournaments. So basically open decklist tournaments is pretty popular among, I would say, the western side of Shadowverse. And basically what open decklist means is that when you're playing in a tournament, you can see pretty much all the players' deck lists. So when you're matched up against your opponent, they'll send you, or the links will be shown to their deck list, and then you can go check that out and see card for card what exactly are in their 40 card decks. So in open decklist tournaments, you would generally see a lot more staple builds and decks that don't kind of run out of the norm. So what I mean by that is you will see generally like the cookie cutter version of mid-range Shadow. There wouldn't be many tech cards into it, or if there are any tech cards into it, it would just be like those consistent tech cards where it's hard to be situational. So for this mid-range Shadow build, you would see like Odile Black Swan. She is kind of a tech card towards aggro, however she doesn't have much downside. So this card is different from, this tech card is different than something like Odin or Tsubaki, which I talked about for closed deck list, which is more of a surprise card with a huge swing attached to it. So with open deck list, if your opponent knows that you're playing harder tech cards such as Odin, Tsubaki, Conflagration, then they would know that they could play around it a bit better, and that card will be less of an impact for you, and then it might just be kind of like a brick card just sitting in your hand the entire game. So with open decklist tournaments, you won't see as many of those kind of hard tech cards into people's decks, just because everyone knows that you're playing it and they could play around it accordingly. Now the thing with open decklist tournaments is that there is a trend that people will play just kind of like the meta decks, and because of that, and since you can confirm that they're playing meta decks ahead of time, you can kind of actually read the meta before entering the tournament and bring kind of like a counter strategy to that. So if the meta becomes something like mid-range Shadow and like an mid-range Sword maybe, or aggro Dirt, then you could totally bring something like Control Blood. And this is something we saw from a previous JCG tournament earlier in the week of this recording, is that a lot of people brought Control Blood, and that's because a lot of players anticipated that the meta will be mid-range Shadow, aggro Sword, Dirt Rune. So mid-range Control Blood is actually really good against that. So with open decklist tournaments, you can kind of bring these control decks, and then because you can see that they are playing it, then you will know that your Control Blood is good for this matchup. And if you expect them to bring something like an aggro forest, so that Control Blood could counter it, but instead they brought something different like an OTK Roach, you would see that, and then you could like ban out that OTK Roach and then have Control Blood against the other matchups. Another thing with open decklist tournaments is that your ban strategy becomes a lot more effective rather than closed decklist, because in closed decklist you wouldn't know what kind of archetype they're playing. They could be playing D-Shift, or they might be playing aggro Dirt, but because you know exactly what they're playing, what archetype they're playing before your ban, or I'm not sure if Battlefy changed it, but then you might have to ban after you see the deck list. But in most cases you will be able to see the deck list before the ban, and when you can confirm that they're playing, like if you confirm that they're playing D-Shift, and D-Shift is particularly good against your lineup, then you could ban that right away. So with open decklist tournaments, you could build your strategies, you build your lineups so that you have a particular ban in mind, and then you could reinforce that when you see their deck lists. Going a bit back about particular deck lists and teching cards, hard techs are something you want to avoid. However, one thing that's really important is looking at the deck list and seeing what exactly the flexible card choices are. Because in a lot of decks, there's like that core amount of cards, maybe like 80%, 90% of the deck, which will be the same across the board in that archetype. However, there's going to be those flexible cards which depend on the player's preference and playstyle. So something for like Ramp Dragon, they might be playing cards like Erd and Forte and like Queen of the Dreadsea in their deck. And that plays a lot differently than if they're playing like a normal Ramp Dragon with no kind of burst combo. Instead, they're playing cards like Polyphonic Roar, Ouroboros, and even like their Sahaquil, Iserphil, Lucifer quantities matter as well. So by having open deck list, you'll be able to play around the cards. You can keep track of the cards that played, and then you'll know exactly how many cards or what cards are left in their deck, and you can play around that. Because it's very important for you to know cards like how many Bahamut's they have, especially if you're like playing Control or Control Blood or like the Ramp Dragon Mirror. If they play 2 Bahamut's, sometimes they could play 2 or 3, so you want to know for sure how many Bahamut's they have left if it comes down to a Bahamut war. If they're playing like a Conflag, then you would probably want to play around that. As you can see in my replay here, I could go for the evolve on my Iperia, however I evolved my Fairy because I could assume that I would know that my opponent's not running Conflagration, so I don't have to play around that. Other cards you would have to consider is like, oh, they have a Zeus, then I want to play around the Zeus, which is a big ward for 10 play points. Another thing with open deck list tournaments is, and this is kind of like advice for when you're actually playing in the match, is that I really like to have a tab open with their deck list, and then when I'm playing my games, I go through the deck list as I'm playing, because that way you could keep track of what they've played, and also you could play around turn by turn. You could play around what their best answer is, what kind of responses that they could have to what your play is, or what could be coming up and what you could play around. So having open deck list is pretty convenient in that sense, where you could just have their deck list open and see what they could be playing. So that's pretty much what I want to say about open deck list tournaments. Again, you want to think about what kind of decks you want to bring. You want to stay away from those like hard techie cards and rogue cards. Try to stick to more standard builds. You can go for specific banning strategies or counter strategies because you can anticipate things and you can see through them because deck lists are all transparent. And also open deck lists really does affect your play because you can open up your deck list on the side and then play exactly around what they could possibly play against you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys prefer, having open or closed deck list tournaments. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on that notification so you know when new videos are up. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. As always, guys, I appreciate the support, and thank you so much for watching my video.